Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Silvia Alessi, and I want to thank Educating Beyond Borders for inviting me for the second time. I'm here to share my experience as a youth activist with you and provide some insight on how being an activist can impact positively with the right to education. I'm currently engaged in two non-profit organizations. One is called the One Campaign and is an international NGO on international development, which is based in multiple places, including London. And the latter is a women-led network called Il Giusto Mezzo, the Italian for the right means, which is Italy-based and has lobbied the Italian presidency for addressing female unemployment. What is key about these organizations is that they resort to a kind of activism which is based on advocacy strategies. It means that they don't get involved with the target groups directly by providing services to them or by collecting funds to support projects. Instead, they reach local, national, international institutions to influence decision making and change the law. First, the One Campaign has a focus on public health. As a youth activist, or more precisely as they call me, youth ambassador, my main task during the last 2 years was pressuring the governments of G7 and G20 to support the international mechanisms for the production and distribution of COVID-19 vaccines towards low-income countries. And these organizations, like, for example, the ACT Accelerator, the Global Fund, and the Gavi Alliance. Concretely, this implies participating in those we call lobby days, in which we invite MPs from the Finance and Foreign Affairs committees to meet us in virtual meetings and ask me to propose a motion to address to the government for the distribution of excess COVID-19 vaccines across the world. One's mission is in line with the United Nations 2030 agenda, since we are a global movement and based in UN member states. And in doing this, it indeed touches multiple SDG goals through an approach that can be called intersectional, using a very fashionable word. Because the goal is ending extreme poverty across the world, but we all know that the spillover effect that improving economic condition does, especially on young people. This spillover effect was even more evident with Il Giusto Mezzo. This is a grassroots network who was created spontaneously by a group of women of the civil society who decided to build a team to pursue a very precise objective: securing that a certain percentage of resources, financial resources, was of the Next Generation EU fund was allocated to tackle female unemployment that was severely worsened because after the pandemic. Of course, you can see this mission requires to work towards tight deadlines, and it heavily depends on the welfare structure of the country. As we operate in Italy, we have to be very aware that the Italian rate of female unemployment is linked to some very severe barriers in access to education. Therefore, our request included to increase the public spending on bettering school infrastructure, expand the number of state kindergartens, and provide more extracurricular activities in school so that women and mothers, more specifically, don't feel compelled to work part-time or quit their jobs. For what concerns the strategy we employed, I'm generally satisfied because we managed to reach the institutions, both local and national, and the national news through a very handy, simple strategy. At the very beginning, a petition, the distribution of leaflets, and flash mob, Instagram Reels, mail a letter bobbing to the president, Mario Draghi. The One campaign has a very long experience in this advocacy modus operandi, and I think it works very efficiently since it gives the opportunity to young volunteers to have a say in those matters involved with them. And I believe it's important because students and young people as a whole are the social group with the least resources at disposal, with the less money. That doesn't mean that advocacy is a sort of second-rate form of activism. It's actually the other way around, because lobbying, even when it's not done professionally, goes at the very core of the issues. It's the target are policies. So by pressuring decision makers, activists are able to virtually change policies or to orient budgets, destinations. And it's worth saying, being an advocate is no easy task because you still have to get things arranged. You have to be lucky and smart enough to find like-minded people wanting to join you. You have to represent your interests by organizing to a group. You have to develop a communication strategy, identify supporters and opponents, and so on. Like, I don't want to lie and say it's like a bed of roses and you don't need to invest skills and time, because it isn't the case. And I prefer being an advocacy activist because it gives the possibility to make an impact in the long term and reach a wide range of beneficiaries. And that is what the future generation need the most to shine, to fulfill their objectives. Going straight to the point, what are the takeaways and the impact on education? I don't want to be trivial and vague by saying that if you are in good health and economic condition, you can afford quality education, because it isn't the whole picture about SDG 4. The truth is that the fact that your target and change you advocate for is not related to education still can improve quality, access and outcomes of education and employment, both on an individual and micro basis. First, you get skills development. You grow vocational competencies like leadership, networking, time management, the so-called set of soft skills that are vital to fit a junior role these times, particularly if you consider that enrolling at university is no longer an investment that pays off, as like this summit is insisting on. You learn to set goals and priorities and solidify your capacity to identify political opportunities, like, for example, in my very case, the Next Generation EU Fund. That was a very unique opportunity to orient, to ask for an increase in budget, addressing women empowerment, addressing like equality policies. Like, going more into details about what it actually takes to achieve Goal 4, we have an interesting indicator, because, like every single SDG goal has a set of targets and indicators to gauge the progress. You have targets 4.7. Education for sustainable development and global citizenship. The UN definition is that by 2030, ensure that all learners acquire the knowledge and skills needed to promote sustainable development, including, among others, through education for sustainable development and sustainable lifestyles, human rights, gender equality, promotion of a culture of peace and non-violence, global citizenship, and appreciation of cultural diversity and of culture and contribution to sustainable development. So, like, what's better than applying to become a youth ambassador for the One campaign, which is very attached to sustainable development. You also have targets. You have targets 4.5. Eliminate all discrimination in education, which is also very related to one campaign, and also il giusto mezzo, the right means. You have targets 4.A. Build and upgrade inclusive and safe schools. Il giusto mezzo clearly demanded, among the other requests, to reach the threshold of public spending to 33% in line with the European criteria of GDP to improve the quality of school facilities. So, what can I say eventually? I absolutely don't mean that students aren't doing enough to empower themselves, because it isn't simply the truth. I want to say that there isn't just one way to advocate for the right to education, because this is not merely about scholarship and training that are still fundamental measure to take. And I hope that my experience, what I told you about the one campaign and il giusto mezzo, can inspire the young people that are disillusioned with the ruling class, understandably disillusioned, to take the lead and don't be swayed into believing that they don't have the power to create change. The example given by the right means is universally valid, because just like a very initially small group of Italian women joined the forces to raise the voices, becoming like just a grassroots organization with no judicial personality, but still being very influential. And they demanded politicians to listen to them very successfully. Students of all the world and all the grade are able to do exactly the same. Of course, it's not possible to guarantee a positive outcome, but it's extremely important. It's an extremely important step when it comes to political legitimacy, when it comes to noticing that students are, I don't say like the most important segment of society, but they're the backbone of what society is going to be in the future. I hope you appreciate my speech, and thanks for having me.